Apparently this week is book awards all the way down because I'm here to gripe about the Goodreads Choice Awards. I made a very angry, somewhat understandable video last year about my thoughts and about how, what is the purpose of the Goodreads? Is it for consumers or is it for businesses? And a lot of my thoughts were that at the end of the day, it is primarily for businesses. It's for sales. It's not to actually help readers find what they might enjoy most. What is a good quality book? I understand that there are other awards and other things that promote books better than Goodreads. It is the chain that just keeps on holding us even though we don't need it. And yes, this year I'm here to gripe because they took out three really, really important categories, which is just shocking. They took out graphic novels, middle grade and children's, and poetry. So these are three of my favorite genres. I love middle grade and children's novels. I really enjoy picture books. I've been reading lots of them. The fact that they had combined middle grade and picture books already seemed strange because they're very different mediums. They're both very good, and I think that we sometimes act as if middle grade books and picture books are not books in the same way, but I think that they are really, really important and should be judged separately. And to not have any books represented for anyone under YA is just like, why? Like, first of all, Goodreads is used by younger readers. I joined Goodreads when I was 15 or 16 years old, so I was still reading middle grade at that time. And also, I feel like it's a good use for parents, for educators, for librarians, for people to know and celebrate that. And then also, adults do read middle grade and children's books. I read middle grade and children's books, and I think it is really important to read them throughout your life and to not discount books because they're not something that is for adults, quote unquote. And I think that YA has gotten that push and it has become almost a predominant thing, although it has sometimes been taken out of the realm of for kids and more kind of being guarded more toward it's like 20s and 30s and older population, which is not always great. This year did add a new category in place of these books, and it was romantasy. Romantasy is very well loved. I love romantasy when I read it. I have not been a huge fantasy reader of late, and I think that that's just the different eras that I'm in. Like, I will go through eras when I read graphic novels for 2 months and then I won't pick them up for a year. And I do the same thing with fantasy. And I tend to read more in bursts with my little ADHD brain than I read one genre forever. So like, I still enjoy fantasy, obviously. That is my shelf here. This is my classic shelves. There's a bunch of my literary fiction and poetry. I have my graphic novels right up there where you can't see them quite, but like Harleen is there. Lots of my favorite things are there. So like, I believe in reading cross genre, and I think that romance is such an important thing, and it does sometimes get discredited and has a lot of like misogynistic or like less important vibes, which I just don't think is true. And I never want to center that conversation because, like, again, this is a prize that doesn't give any money. It only gives like prestige or like influence. So like, it's not even like they're using money. I guess they're using a little bit of time, but they have many people. Adding a group of like 8 books or 10 books to a list is not that hard. The level of effort needed to add to a category is not that big. Like, it's not judged by a panel, it's only judged by readers. So like, why did you take this away? Ashley from Bookish Realm has a video where she talks about how this perpetuates the idea that graphic novels are not really real literature and that children's books are not important, and I agree with her 100%. I think she did an excellent video, and I really liked her other video talking about how, like, yes, we all care about this award, but like, it also brings us together, and like, it's okay for it to be a little messy and us to also like it, because that's the thing, it's the popularity prize. And I hate that in some ways because I think that some really good books get missed out by mediocre books by well-known authors. I think last year I talked specifically about Gallant by V.E. Schwab, which has a not great rating on Goodreads. I liked it okay, but like, there was great, amazing books on that got like completely sideswiped, and it was only because of V.E. Schwab's name, not because of it even being that popular of a book. And I think that that's a thing. Like, Rick Riordan won the middle grade novel award for 14 years until last year, in which he did not have a book, and like, I think that that's the annoying thing sometimes with popularity. I know that Rick Riordan is a big fan of promoting other voices, so that did not bother me the same way, but like, there is just some messiness around there with the amount of effort needed to use these and the amount of purposeful exclusion to remove them. It does really seem like it denigrates these genres, and it says these aren't important or these aren't necessary. I have a friend whose name is Liz Parks. She is a wonderful and incredible illustrator and cover artist, and I have known her since we were teenagers, and I was so excited to see her go through college to do a wonderful and incredible art. And like, she had a story that was just talking about like how devastated she was as a person who does do storyboarding and does all of these things, just not have graphic novels even represented. She's like, okay, great, like how, because it is, especially I think for graphic novels that don't get the same amount of hype, the same amount of promotion, it is a great way to get to know other books, to get to see other books. And some of my favorites have never made the graphic novel list. I'm often sitting there being like, I read other graphic novels, and this, I am a big superhero fan, so I know that those never get recognized for some reason, even though they're one of the most popular ways of graphic novels to be done. It is just very sad to see this completely unrecognized, and because graphic novels aren't as popular, like, it is more reason for them to promote them. Like, I know Amazon is the thing that like wants to have the most popular thing, but they also want their lesser known things to get promoted, don't they? Because again, it's more money to them. I don't understand the purpose of it. And then poetry. Like, I understand that not everyone likes poetry, but there is a prestigiousness around poetry. It's like the oldest form of writing. Like, I love poetry, and I thought that it was hard to break into, but I don't understand the complete absence of it. Like, how can you say, I'm going to talk about all of these different kind of genres and I'm not going to mention poetry? I just don't think that you can have a well-rounded thing and not include poetry, not include children's books, not include graphic novels. Like, these are all very popular mediums. And I looked into the voting from last year, and they're not even the categories with the least vote. They got into the 1,700,000 votes. Like, there's plenty of votes going around. I think graphic novels got close to 200,000. Like, I don't understand why they're like, maybe we don't use these. And yeah, I think that it's really dumb and I don't like it. I will admit that I am not the most present reader always. Like, I read lots of contemporary fiction, but I am reliant on libraries, and you know, sometimes I'm just not in the mood for something, and I tend to read books that have come out in the last like 5 years, but not necessarily books when they immediately released. So I did want to end this video on a positive note, so I want to recommend some poetry books. I am a person who wants to be a poet. I write poetry and I read a lot of poetry. So I have one that just blew me away out of the water that I think deserved to win this prize, and I have two others by authors that I've really love, and one of them is arriving in the mail hopefully today that I really want to recommend. So the first one is Plantains and Are Becoming by Melania Louisa Marte, and I am blown away by this book. It is so lyrical and narrative, and you just get drawn into this beautiful story and contemplation of race and belonging and all of these things that I just think are incredibly well done. And I think that for people who think that they don't like poetry, this is a great collection to read and be like, oh yeah, no, I actually understand what this is happening. I understand what's going on. I like it a lot. I also have Above Ground by Clint Smith. I have read his nonfiction book, This is How the Word is Passed, as well as Counting Descent, which was his previous poetry book, and I think that both of them are wonderful. So I'm really excited to read Above Ground, which also looks at being a father and the ways in which that interacts with race in America and all of these different things. I think it will be lovely when I read it. And then the book that I'm hoping to show up today, because I pre-ordered it and it just released as of yesterday, and that is Please Do Not Touch This Exhibit by Jen Campbell. She is a YouTuber and a booktuber and talks about things, and I've read some of her poetry that she has like released online, and I'm so excited. She's a disability advocate, and she also talks about IVF, and I think that it will be really important to read these books. And these are books that like they should be out in the world. They should be recommended, and like more people should be reading these. And yeah, I know that there's an incredible amount of graphic novels, comics, and middle grade and children's books and picture books that just like deserve to be in the world as well. And yeah, it saddens my heart that this is becoming more limiting of what people can grab rather than more. And like, yay for romantasy. I think that it's wonderful that people who love romance, that love fantasy, are getting a little bit of the spotlight, because that is another area that has been denigrated. But I don't think that by pushing something else up, we should crush down other areas, especially areas that are so diverse and needed and are a little bit outside of the trend. Like, I think that those things are beautiful and wonderful and should be celebrated. So yes, I am irritated. I have cast my votes. I think I've only read 4 of the books, or 5 of the books that are even on any of the lists, so alas, I'm not a good reader, I guess.